Hello, folks, and welcome back to day two of this 90-day challenge. And today I will be discussing the levels of reading. This is the second chapter of the book. So, the first day we discussed a very important distinction, that was the difference between learning by aided instruction versus learning by discovery. And reading sort of falls between the two because there's no teacher if you're reading alone, and so it's kind of like learning by discovery, and it's also kind of like learning by aided instruction. So you have to sort of balance the both of these things, and if you can do it by yourself, that's great. So the goal a reader seeks, be it entertainment, information, or understanding, determines the way he reads. So in general, while reading books, the rule is the more effort, the better, at least in the case of books that are initially beyond our powers as readers and are therefore capable of raising us from a condition of understanding less to one of understanding more. Now, reading, like unaided discovery, is learning from an absent teacher. We can only do that successfully if we know how. So, the author here wants to emphasize how we really need to understand levels of reading so that we can gauge our own levels as we continue on a journey. So there are four levels of reading. The first level of reading we will call elementary reading, and if you are able to follow what I'm saying, then you essentially are also someone who knows how to do elementary reading. In mastering this level, one learns the rudiments of the art of reading, receives basic training in reading, and acquires initial reading skills. The child's first encounter with reading is at this level. So we've all been here. At this level of reading, the question asked of the reader is, what does the sentence say? And this particular question can be conceived in a more complex way, but here at the very beginning, at elementary reading, it literally means we literally mean it in the simplest sense. What does the sentence say? The second level of reading we will call inspectional reading. It is characterized by its special emphasis on time. When reading at this level, the student is allowed a set time to complete an assigned amount of reading. He might be allowed 15 minutes to read this book, for instance, or even a book twice as long. So inspectional reading is all about reading quickly and assessing exactly what it is. So there are two levels of reading, inspectional reading as well, and this will be discussed in a later chapter. I think chapter 4 is where inspectional reading is discussed. So another way to describe this level of reading is to say that its aim is to get the most out of a book within a given time, usually a relatively short time. And another name for this level could be skimming or pre-reading. So when reading at this level, your aim is to examine the surface of the book, to learn everything that the surface also alone can teach you. And here is when like this skill is really important, because it is when you pick up a book, if you know how to ask the right questions and do the right kind of inspectional reading, you can figure out if you want to read this book, what this book will add to your repertoire, and overall you will get a general sense of what you're getting into. So this is a really important level of reading to understand. Now the third level of reading is analytical reading, and which is this book is entirely about analytical reading. So it is a more complex and a more systematic activity than either of the two levels of reading discussed so far. Depending on the difficulty of the text to be read, it makes more or less heavy demands on the reader. Analytical reading is thorough reading, complete reading, or good reading, the best reading you can do. I'm not, these are literally the words used in the book. I'm not hard selling it right now. So if inspectional reading is the best and most complete reading that is possible given a limited time, then analytical reading is the best and most complete reading that is possible given unlimited time. And since this book is entirely about analytical reading, we will be covering a large chunk of what analytical reading is all about over the coming few weeks. I'm guessing 1.5 weeks or so. So we're done with the third level of reading for now, and the fourth level of reading is the highest level of reading, and it's called syntopical reading. It is the most complex and systematic type of reading of all. It makes very heavy demands on the reader, even if the materials he's reading are themselves relatively easy and unsophisticated. So the book also mentions that syntopical reading doesn't really have a fixed definition. It's different for different people. When reading syntopically, the reader reads many books, not just one, and places them in a relation to one another and to a subject about which they all revolve. But mere comparison of texts is not enough. Syntopical reading involves more. With the help of books read, the syntopical reader is able to construct an analysis of the subject that may not be in any of the books. It is obvious, therefore, that syntopical reading is the most active and effortful kind of reading. So these are the levels of reading, and I hope you know what we are getting into. So we'll be getting into a lot more analytical reading, and that'll be what this book is about. But it's really cool to know what the levels of reading are, in order to know how one can grow in reading. So this is useful information that way, and I'm really looking forward to day 3, and to the next chapter, and see you tomorrow. Hope you're enjoying this. I'll keep trying to improve the videos. If you have any feedback, please feel free to give the feedback to me. I am noting it down and I'm working on it. Thank you.